The heat never really left the desert. It lingered in the concrete like a bad memory, radiating up from cracked floors of Jack's auto shop long after the sun had ducked behind the dunes. The hum of cicadas outside was relentless, a broken clock ticking to the final stretch of another empty, sun-bleached day. Jack stood over an old Chevy, wiping sweat and oil from his brow with a rag that had long given up pretending to be clean. His hands ached from hours of coaxing life out of rust and bent metal. But the ache in his wallet hurt worse. He dropped the hood and sighed. No new customers again. No calls. No miracles. Behind the garage, his trailer sat in the same crooked posture it had for years, wheels half buried in sand. Lights glowed inside, faintly. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was finishing her homework. At least, that's what she promised before he told her he needed another hour in the shop. She was good that way. Quiet, observant, too mature for her age. The kind of child forged not by indulgence, but necessity. Jack reached the shop light switch when something shifted. Faint, but real. A tinny scrape, like metal on metal, followed by a hollow thud. He froze, listening. Nothing. Then, again, the soft shuffle of movement behind the shelves where he kept spare parts and forgotten tools. He grabbed a socket wrench instinctively, held it like a club, and crept forward. The back wall was stacked with tires, dusty crates, and the broken shell of an old generator. Shadows layered thickly there, refusing to lift even under the overhead light. Jack edged around the stack and stopped. A pair of eyes stared up at him, wide, sunken, and rimmed with red. The woman was curled into herself, knees pulled to her chest, though her belly bulged forward, unmistakably pregnant. Her lips were cracked, her cheeks hollowed. Dirt clung to her like a second skin, and her hair hung in tangled ropes across her face. She flinched, pulling a wrench from the floor and brandishing it weakly. "Don't come closer," she rasped. Jack held up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her arms trembled from the effort of holding the wrench aloft. Jack glanced at the doorway behind her, realizing she must have slipped in through the busted side door, something he'd been meaning to fix for months. "You're trespassing," he said carefully. "But I'm not calling anyone. Just put that down. You look like you're about to pass out." "I'm fine," she whispered, voice brittle. "No, you're not." He reached into the fridge beneath his tool counter and pulled out a half-empty bottle of water, walked forward slowly, and placed it on the ground between them. She didn't move. "Drink it," he said. "Please." Only when he stepped back did she lunge forward, seizing the bottle with both hands and tilting it back like it was her last hope. Some of it spilled down her chin, but she didn't care. She drained it completely, gasping when she finished. The wrench clattered to the floor. Jack took a slow breath. "What's your name?" She hesitated, eyes darting to the open door like a trapped animal. "Eva." "You're pregnant." She nodded once, then pressed her back against the tire stack like she might melt into it. "I'm not staying. I just needed somewhere for the night." He studied her. She didn't look like someone used to living rough, but the desperation was genuine. "When's the baby due?" "Couple weeks. Maybe sooner. I don't know." Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "You shouldn't be out here alone. This place isn't safe, especially not at night." "I've been in worse places," she said, more to herself than to him. He glanced at the tool bench, then at the fridge. He had maybe half a sandwich left, wrapped in wax paper. He offered it to her. "Eat." She shook her head. "Look, I've got a kid. I know what hungry looks like. I'm not trying to get involved in anything. Just don't die in my shop, all right?" Reluctantly, Eva took the sandwich, hands trembling as she unwrapped it. Jack stepped away again and gave her space. He watched her eat in small, pain bites. It made his chest tighten. She wasn't just hungry. She was starving. "Where have you been staying?" "Nowhere. Walking, mostly. Someone dropped me off outside town. I didn't know where else to go. Saw the open door." Jack exhaled hard through his nose, then dropped onto a stool. "You got family? Someone looking for you?" Eva didn't answer. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and looked away. "Doesn't matter." That meant no. He stared at the floor, wrestling with himself. He couldn't just let her go, but he couldn't exactly take her in, either. His life was barely hanging on by a thread. One gust, and it could all fall apart. A quiet knock at the shop's interior door made him turn. Lily stood there in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy," she said. Why is the light still on? Jack stood quickly, positioning himself so Lily wouldn't see Eva right away. "Just finishing up, Bug. Go back inside. I'll be there in a minute." She blinked past him. "Who's that?" Eva shrank into the shadows. Jack's mouth worked uselessly for a moment. "Just someone who needed a little help. Go on now." Lily nodded slowly. She wasn't easily fooled, but she knew when not to push. "Okay." When the door clicked shut, Jack turned back to Eva. "You can stay the night. Just the night. I'll figure something out tomorrow." Tears welled in her eyes, but she wiped them away before they could fall. "Thank you." He rolled out an old mechanic's cot from the supply room, layered it with a blanket and the least oily towel he could find. Eva lowered herself onto it slowly, wincing as she cradled her belly. "Bathroom's through that door," Jack said. "Don't lock it." She nodded. "I won't." He moved to the light switch, pausing just before flipping it. "Don't try anything. My daughter's in the next room. You get that?" "I'd never hurt her," Eva said softly. "I swear." Jack didn't answer. He turned off the light. Back in the trailer, Lily was already curled up on the couch with her book, pretending not to be curious. Jack sat beside her and ran a hand over his face. She looked up. "Is she okay?" Lily asked. He hesitated. "I don't know." She looked scared. "She is. Are we helping her?" Jack stared at his daughter's wide, sincere eyes. "Yeah, Bug. For now." Lily nodded and leaned against him. "Okay." After she fell asleep, Jack lay awake for hours, listening to the thin walls. Every creak, every shift in the shop made his nerves prickle. He didn't know who Eva really was. Didn't know what she was running from. But he couldn't throw her out either. Not like that. Morning brought a weak light through the blinds and the smell of rust and heat. Jack crept into the shop quietly. Eva was asleep on the cot, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. Her face looked softer now, but no less weary. She hadn't taken off her shoes. Her backpack, battered and thin, sat under the cot like a fragile shield. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he opened the door wide and let the desert air inside. Later that morning, he made a few calls. The nearest clinic said they couldn't help without ID or insurance. The local shelter was full and wary of complicated cases. Jack hung up each time with growing frustration. Eva woke mid-morning and moved gingerly, one hand always on her belly. Jack handed her a coffee and a slice of toast, and she took them gratefully. "I'll figure something out," he said. "Just give me a day." She didn't thank him, just nodded, her eyes avoiding his. The hours dragged. Jack fixed the carburetor. Eva swept the floor slowly, stubbornly. Lily sat on the edge of the shop, reading aloud to her rabbit, stealing glances every now and then. Jack caught himself watching Eva too much. He shook his head and got back to work. That night, when Eva lay back down on the cot, she whispered, "I won't stay longer than I have to. I promise." Jack leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "I didn't ask for promises. I don't want to be a burden." He sighed. "You already are, but maybe that's okay." She looked at him for the first time without flinching. Her lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something close. Jack didn't smile back. He walked away, shut the trailer door behind him, and stared at the ceiling. He wasn't sure what he'd just invited into his life, but it was no longer a question of if he was involved. It was a matter of how deep he'd already fallen, and what it might cost him. The desert wind kicked sand against the garage doors as if trying to get inside. Like everything else out there, heat, dust, desperation. Jack stood at his workbench, watching Eva sweep. Her movements were slow, deliberate, one hand always hovering near her swollen belly. She hadn't said much since last night. Didn't need to. Her silence spoke loud enough. She was trying to be invisible. Lily sat nearby with her notebook, scribbling something with intense focus. the kind only children had when they didn't yet know how heavy the world could get. Every so often, her eyes would flick toward Eva, curious, cautious, but not afraid. Jack noticed. Eva stopped, leaning against a broom. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Despite the early hour, she looked like she hadn't rested in months. "You don't have to do that," Jack said, wiping his hands on a rag. "You need to take it easy. I can't just sit around." "Well, you don't have to sweep the whole place." "It's fine," she said, catching her breath. "I'm used to being on my feet." He doubted that. She had the lean look of someone more familiar with running than resting. There was grace in her, but also fragility, like a bird that had flown too far for too long and wasn't sure where to land. Jack reached into the cooler and handed her a bottle of water. "At least drink this before you pass out." She took it and nodded. "Thanks." They worked in silence. The shop had always been loud with engines and tools, but lately it felt different, quieter in a strange, expectant way, like the building itself was waiting. Later that afternoon, Jack pulled an old lawn chair outside and set it in the patch of shade near the trailer. He waved Eva over. She hesitated, then shuffled outside and lowered herself into the chair. He offered her a slice of watermelon from the cooler. "Thought you might want a break," he said. She bit into the fruit, and for a second, something soft flickered across her face. "You from around here?" he asked. She shook her head. "No. You've got a name, right? Something more than Eva? That's all you need." He tilted his head, studying her. "You always as friendly?" She gave him a tired smirk. "You always as nosy?" "Only when someone shows up in my garage half dead and pregnant." She said nothing for a while. Then, "I used to live in a place with walls so thin I could hear the neighbors cough through them. I'd fall asleep to someone else's TV. It was like living inside other people's lives." "What happened?" Her shoulders stiffened. "I left. That much I figured." Eva set the watermelon rind down and folded her hands. "Do you need my full story? Or just the part where I stopped being your problem?" Jack leaned back in the doorway. "I think you already are my problem, whether I like it or not." She looked away, but her voice softened. "I was with someone. At first, he was different. Kind. Or he seemed kind. Then he started controlling things. What I wore. Who I saw. When I ate. He made me think it was protection. Love." Jack didn't interrupt. "When I found out I was pregnant, I thought maybe it had changed something. That he'd change. But he didn't. He got worse. I waited until I could run. Then I ran." She kept her gaze fixed on the desert horizon, as if daring to look back. "You did the right thing," Jack said. "I did what I had to." That night, Lily asked if Eva would be joining them for dinner. Jack looked at Eva. "You hungry?" Eva nodded quietly. She hadn't eaten all day. At the table, Lily pushed her peas around her plate, while sneaking glances at Eva. After a few awkward minutes, she asked, "Is the baby going to be a boy or a girl?" Eva blinked. "I don't know yet. Do you want to know?" "I think I'd rather be surprised." Lily nodded. "I hope it's a girl. Girls are tough." Jack smiled into his plate. She's not wrong. After dinner, Eva helped with the dishes. Her hands moved slowly, but she didn't complain. Jack leaned on the counter, drying the plate she'd pass him. "You didn't have to help." "I needed to feel normal." "Fair enough." He hesitated. "You still planning to leave soon?" She dried her hands and met his eyes. "Would it be easier for you if I did?" "Honestly," he asked, "I don't know." That night, Jack lay awake again listening. Not just for trouble now, but for Eva's breathing, the subtle rhythm that meant she was still there, still real. Part of him expected to wake and find her gone like a strange dream. Morning brought a shift. The shop had a job. An actual customer. Jack took it, while Eva sat out front with Lily, reading a battered children's book they found under the couch cushions. Her voice was low, steady, maternal in a way that startled him. Lily leaned into her side like she'd been doing for years. After the customer left, Jack walked over and offered Eva a smile. "Thanks for keeping her company." Eva shrugged. She's a good kid. She's been through a lot. Eva glanced up. So have you. They didn't say anything else. Later in the day, Jack made another call to a nurse he used to fix cars for, a woman named Denise. She wasn't exactly official, but she helped people who didn't have much. He explained Eva's situation as vaguely as he could. She needs a checkup, he said. She's not in great shape. Denise agreed to come by after hours. That evening, she arrived in a rusted-out SUV and carried a medical bag like it was filled with gold. Denise was sharp, no nonsense, and didn't ask questions. She took Eva into the back room of the shop and examined her on the cot. Speaking gently but firmly, Jack stayed outside with Lily, pretending not to worry. When Denise emerged, she looked grim. She's malnourished, dehydrated. The baby's heartbeat is strong, but she needs better conditions than this. Honestly, it's a miracle she made it this far without complications. Jack ran a hand over his face. What can I do? Keep her cool. Keep her fed. Let her rest. I'll bring vitamins and supplies tomorrow. She needs prenatal support, not just sympathy. Thank you. Denise glanced back toward the shop. She's lucky you found her. But this isn't sustainable. You know that. I know, Jack said quietly. When he went inside, Eva was sitting on the edge of the cot, her expression unreadable. You okay? He asked. She said the baby's fine. She also said you need to take care of yourself. Eva looked up at him, and for the first time, her voice cracked. I don't know how. Not anymore. Jack crouched in front of her. Let me help. She didn't reply, but she didn't pull away either. Days passed. Eva settled into a rhythm. She swept floors, folded laundry, helped Lily with her spelling. She still didn't say much, but she moved like someone starting to believe in the possibility of safety. Jack wasn't sure what to make of it. He found himself looking forward to the sound of her voice, to the weight of her footsteps in the shop. One evening, Jack was fixing an alternator when Eva brought him a glass of lemonade. It wasn't cold, but it was thoughtful. She sat nearby on a crate. Why'd you help me? She asked. He tightened the bolt. Seemed like the right thing to do. Most people wouldn't. I'm not most people. She smiled. No, you're not. There was a silence that stretched between them, soft and tentative. You ever think about starting over? She asked. All the time. Do you think it's possible? Jack looked at her, really looked. I didn't, but now I'm not so sure. That night, Jack found Lily asleep with Eva's sweater tucked under her arm. It was stained and threadbare, but she clutched it like a security blanket. He covered her with a quilt and sat nearby, staring out the trailer window. The desert was quiet, but inside, something had shifted. The next day, while Eva was resting and Lily played outside, a stranger pulled into the lot. A man in a sleek black car, windows tinted too dark for the desert. He stepped out slowly, surveying the shop with careful interest. Jack wiped his hands on his jeans and walked out. Can I help you? The man wore dark sunglasses and a too-clean shirt. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Just looking for someone. Woman. Pregnant. About yet tall. Jack's jaw tightened. We don't run a hotel. Mind if I take a look around? Jack stepped forward. Yeah, I do. The man's smile faded. You sure? I'm real sure. For a long moment, the man stared at him. Then he shrugged. Well, if you see anyone like that, let her know someone's worried. He slid back into his car and drove off without another word. Jack watched the dust settle, his hands clenched into fists. When he told Eve about the visitor, she turned white. That was him, she said. That was him. You sure? I'd know that voice anywhere. Jack locked the shop doors and double-checked the trailer windows that night. He didn't ask Eva any more questions. Didn't need to. After Lily fell asleep, he found Eva sitting outside under the stars, arms wrapped around her belly like armor. He found me, she said. Not if I've got anything to say about it. You don't know what he's capable of. I know what I am. Eva turned to him, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Fear, yes, but also trust. Why are you doing this? She asked. You don't even know me. Maybe I don't need to. She exhaled shakily and leaned against him, Just for a second, Jack didn't move. The wind whispered through the dry brush, and the stars burned overhead, indifferent. But inside the auto shop, behind the locked doors and shadowed windows, something fragile was taking root, a sense of belonging, of quiet hope. It wasn't safety. Not yet, but it was a beginning. The heat that summer grew relentless, pressing into every corner of Jack's shop, seeping to the thin trailer walls, curling beneath doors like smoke. The air felt heavier each day, as if warning them that something was coming. Not just another storm, but a reckoning. Eva moved slower now. Her belly had grown, rounding her back and swelling her ankles. Yet she remained quiet, determined, pulling her weight where she could. Jack watched her from the workbench, marveling at how someone could carry so much weight, both seen and unseen, and still keep going. Lily had taken to shadowing Eva like a second heartbeat. She'd ask about the baby, draw pictures of them together, whisper stories into the curve of Eva's stomach. Jack could see how much she wanted this. Wanted Eva to stay, to make their home feel less hollow. But safety was a brittle thing. Ever since that man's visit, Jack had slept less, worked more, and kept a bat beside the bed. He didn't tell Lily why. He didn't have to. One evening, after hours spent coaxing a rusty truck back to life, Jack found Eva on the back steps, a small radio in her lap, playing something soft and melodic. Her eyes were closed, her face tilted toward the last golden light of the day. "Thought you could use this," he said, holding out a cold drink. She accepted it gratefully. "Thanks." They sat in silence a while, the kind that doesn't need filling, the kind that means trust. "I've been thinking," she said eventually, "about what happens when the baby comes." Jack studied her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what next? I can't stay forever." "Why not?" She turned to him, eyes dark with conflict. "Because I can't ask you to carry this. I've already taken too much." "You didn't take anything. You were dropped here like a storm, and storms don't ask permission. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," he said. "And even if you were, I'm not exactly swamped with other plans." Eva's expression tightened. "You don't know what kind of trouble he could bring." "I've seen the kind," Jack said. "I've lived it." She blinked, surprised. He rarely spoke of the past. But now, something broke open. Lily's mom left when she was 4. She said she needed time to find herself. That was 3 years ago. Never looked back. So yeah, I know what abandonment looks like. I know how it feels to carry more than your share. Eva didn't speak. She just reached out and laid her hand on his, a quiet connection between two people shaped by what they'd lost. The following days passed in a rhythm that almost resembled normal. Jack balanced customers and repairs. Eva managed a trailer and meals with careful grace. Lily thrived in the space between them, her laughter returning in bursts like sun through clouds. But even as their bond deepened, shadows lingered. One morning, Jack found a tire slashed behind the shop. He replaced it without telling Eva. 2 days later, a light fixture on the porch had been shattered. Small things, but deliberate. Someone was watching. That evening, he brought Eva aside. "I think he's close." She didn't ask how he knew. She just nodded, a shadow falling across her features. "I want you and Lily in the trailer tonight," he said. "Lock the doors. Don't open for anyone." "What about you?" "I'll be here." She hesitated, then whispered, "I'm scared." He touched her shoulder, firm and steady. "So am I, but we don't run." Inside the trailer, Eva packed a small bag without being asked. Not out of panic, but readiness. Lily watched her, wide-eyed. "Are we going somewhere?" she asked. "Not yet, sweetheart," Eva said gently. "We're just being careful." Lily clung to her side. "Don't leave like my mom did." Eva froze, then knelt down and cupped Lily's face. "I'm not going anywhere. Not unless we all go together." "Okay." Lily nodded, but her eyes stayed glassy. That night, Jack stayed up with a flashlight and a bat, sitting just outside the shop with a thermos of lukewarm coffee. He didn't expect a confrontation. Not yet, but he needed to be the wall between what was and what might come. Hours passed. Coyotes cried in the distance. A pair of headlights swept the far road, but didn't slow. By dawn, nothing had happened. But Jack knew the quiet didn't mean safety. It meant patience. Whoever was out there was waiting too. The next day, Jack called Denise again. This time, his voice was tight. "She's getting close. Can you come?" Denise arrived by noon, her SUV rumbling like a tank across the gravel. She brought a suitcase of supplies, prenatal vitamins, and fresh linens. "She's lucky to have you," she said as she unpacked. "She doesn't see it that way." Denise glanced at Eva, who was resting on the cot. "She's been carrying herself alone for too long. People like that don't know how to accept help." "She's not the only one," Jack said quietly. Denise looked up at him. "Maybe this isn't about fixing her. Maybe it's about giving both of you a place to start over." Eva went into labor 3 days later. It happened in the middle of the night, sudden and sharp, the pain cutting through her like wildfire. Jack heard her cry and rushed into the trailer, Lily waking seconds later. Denise was there within 20 minutes. The labor was long, grueling. Jack waited just outside the trailer, pacing the gravel as Denise shouted instructions and Eva screamed. It tore at him, every cry a gut punch, every silence worse. But he stayed outside, knowing she needed strength, not panic. Just before sunrise, Denise stepped out, sweaty and smiling. She did it. She's okay. And it's a girl. Jack let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Can I see her?" "Not yet. Give her a minute." When he finally entered, Eva was pale but glowing, her arms wrapped around a squirming bundle swaddled in a soft towel. "She's perfect," Eva whispered. Jack sat beside her. "What's her name?" Eva hesitated. "I was thinking maybe Lily could help choose." Lily, who'd been hovering at the door, rushed in. She gasped at the sight of the baby. "Can I hold her?" Eva nodded, guiding her carefully. Lily cradled the infant with reverence. "She looks like a hope," Lily said. Jack met Eva's eyes. She nodded slowly. "Hope," she repeated. "That's perfect." For the first time in months, something like peace settled in the trailer. But it didn't last. 2 nights later, the man came back. He didn't knock. He didn't ask. He broke the window on the trailer's side and climbed halfway in before Jack tackled him from behind. They crashed into the gravel, fists flying, dust rising like smoke. Jack landed a punch, then another, until the man's sunglasses flew off, revealing wild, furious eyes. "You think you can hide her from me?" the man hissed. "She's not yours," Jack growled. "Not anymore." The man lunged again. Jack slammed him against the side of the trailer. From inside, Eva shouted. Lily screamed. Neighbors might have called the sheriff. But Jack didn't wait to find out. He grabbed the man by the collar and dragged him to the road. "You come back here," Jack said, voice low and shaking, "and I swear you won't walk away." The man spat blood onto gravel. "This isn't over." Jack didn't respond. He just stood there, waiting until the man disappeared into the dark. Inside, Eva was trembling. Hope had started crying. Lily was sobbing into her hands. Jack locked the doors, double-checked every window, then returned to them. Eva looked up at him, eyes full of tears. "I thought I could outrun him." "You don't have to run anymore. But he'll come back. He always comes back." "Then let him," Jack said, "because next time he won't leave." Eva stared at him, tore between fear and something deeper, something like belief. The next morning, Jack called a lawyer friend he hadn't spoken to in years. It was time to get documentation, protection orders, something solid. Running wasn't enough anymore. They needed roots. Over the next week, Denise returned to check on Eva and baby Hope. Papers were filed. Police were notified. The man's face was shown around town, his car's plate flagged. For the first time, they weren't just surviving. They were preparing. Lily drew a new family portrait, Jack, Eva, herself, and baby Hope in the center. She taped it to the fridge without a word. One night, Eva sat outside with Jack again, Hope sleeping quietly in her arms. "She's got your strength," Jack said. "She's got yours too." Eva turned to him, the desert wind tugging strands of hair from her braid. "You didn't have to fight for us. But you did. I don't know how not to." She reached out, fingers brushing his hand. Maybe you don't have to do it alone anymore. Jack looked at her, at the baby asleep against her chest, at the light spilling from the trailer window, where Lily was humming a lullaby to herself. He thought about everything they'd lost and everything they'd somehow gained. Maybe they weren't just surviving anymore. Maybe, just maybe, they were becoming a family. Hope was 3 months old when Jack first noticed the mornings felt different. Not warmer or colder, but clearer, like a lens had been wiped clean. The sun still rose behind the ridge like it always had. The dust still blew across the lot in golden spirals. But something fundamental had shifted. The air buzzed with something that felt suspiciously like possibility. He was changing the oil on a sedan that barely deserved it when he heard laughter drift from the trailer window. Not just Lily's, but Eva's. It stopped him cold. There was something healing in that sound, something that reminded him they were no longer just surviving day by day. They were building something slowly out of the ruins. Eva had started humming again while she moved around the kitchen. Not loudly, but just enough that Jack could hear it while fixing a carburetor or welding a pipe. A quiet tune, nothing recognizable. Probably something she'd invented while rocking Hope at midnight. But it was hers, and it was life returning to her voice. The trailer felt too small now, not because of clutter, but because of growth. There were bottles dry on the counter, stacks of board books on the floor, a cradle tucked into the corner that Hope had already started outgrowing. Jack began sketching ideas for a second room in the evenings. Just rough notes, lumber estimates, wiring placements. But they were the bones of the future. Eva saw them once and didn't say a word. But that night, she made him real coffee instead of instant. Hope's presence had transformed more than just routines. She'd awakened something in all of them. Lily had blossomed into a big sister role with a reverence far beyond her years. She insisted on changing diapers, mixing formula, reading stories with dramatic flair. She started doing chores without being asked, just to help Mama Eva. Jack didn't correct the title. Neither did Eva. But even with the warm threading between them, the outside world hadn't forgotten. The man had vanished after the night of the attack, but tension remained like a splinter under the skin. The restraining order was in place. Police patrols had increased near the shop. Denise checked in every week without fail. Still, Eva kept her bag packed under the bed. Jack hated that. Not the bag itself, but what it meant that she still believed she might need to run. He didn't bring it up, though. Trust wasn't something you demanded. It was something you earned by staying every day. One evening, as the desert cooled and Lily chased fireflies near the fence line, Eva sat beside Jack on the porch with Hope nestled against her chest. She smiles now, Eva said. Real ones. Not gas. Jack grinned. She gets that from Lily. Not just Lily. She gave him a look that lingered. He shifted, unsure what to do with that warmth crawling up his chest. You ever think, she said after a pause, about doing something more with this place? Jack raised an eyebrow. Like franchising. She smirked. No, I mean fixing up the backlot, making it a real space. Maybe even turning the shed into something livable. You got half the materials. He blinked. You thinking of staying that long? Her eyes dropped to Hope. I'm thinking I want her to have more than a trailer and a whisper of safety. Jack swallowed hard. You won't hear me argue. For the next few weeks, they worked together. Nothing grand. Just cleaning out the shed, pouring a fresh slab for the walkway, installing second-hand windows Jack had bartered for. Every nail they drove, every board they raised, was like another stitch knitting them tighter. Denise visited one Sunday and brought with her a surprise, an official birth certificate with Jack listed as emergency guardian. Eva had requested it, without telling him. Thought it was time, she said simply. Jack stared at the document for a long time after she left. He wasn't just a man who opened his door to a stranger anymore. He was part of this, not by accident, by choice. Fall came slowly to the desert, like a shy guest unsure if it belonged. The air thinned. The nights cooled. Jack bought a second heater for the trailer. Eva began sewing again, patching up baby clothes and Lily's worn sweaters. One evening, They held a small cookout on the lot. Nothing fancy, just burgers, baked beans, and Denise with her guitar. Lily danced in the dirt. Hope giggled in Eva's arms. And Jack felt something he hadn't dared feel in years. Home. But the past doesn't always stay buried. A letter arrived one morning. No return address. No markings. Just a single sheet of paper folded inside an envelope. Jack read it twice before saying anything. He's petitioning for custody, he said flatly. Eva's hands clenched. He won't win. He doesn't have a legal leg to stand on, Jack agreed. But he's trying, which means he's watching. She sank into the couch, shoulders curling inward. Jack sat beside her. We'll fight it, all of it, and you won't do it alone. She didn't speak, just reached out and gripped his hand like a lifeline. The legal battle lasted 4 months. 4 long, grinding months filled with court hearings, background checks, interviews, and affidavits. Denise pulled every string she had. Jack spent late nights gathering documentation. Eva had to relive things she wanted buried. But they did it, together. When the judge's ruling came, it was swift. Full custody awarded to Eva. No visitation. No contact. The man left town soon after. They didn't celebrate. Not loudly. But that night, Jack poured 2 glasses of the whiskey he kept for rare occasions and toasted to the quiet future they'd earned. You okay? He asked. Eva nodded. It feels strange. I thought I'd feel lighter. And you don't. She looked toward Hope's crib. I feel unfinished, like we're at the end of one road, but another just started. Jack clinked his glass against hers. That's how you know you're still moving forward. Spring came early the next year. The shed had become a proper nursery. Lily had her own room. Eva, in time, began taking online courses in auto diagnostics, helping Jack in the shop when Hope napped. Jack added her name to the business license. She didn't protest. One morning, Jack found Lily sitting beside Hope in the grass behind the shop, telling her a story about a magical truck that saved lost people. Jack leaned in to listen, and then the truck found a lady in the desert and said, I'll take you home. And she said, what if I'm too broken? And the truck said, that's okay. I fix broken things. Hope gurgled. Lily beamed. Jack blinked hard against the sun. Later that week, Eva brought him a wrap package. Happy birthday, she said. He frowned. It's not my birthday. She grinned. It's the day we met. That counts. Inside was a custom wrench engraved with his initials, and one more name below it. Hope. Figured she'll need it when she starts working on cars, Eva said softly. Jack looked at the tool, then at her. I want to stay, she said, if that's still okay. Jack didn't answer right away. He walked to the wall, took down the old photograph of his first truck, and replaced it with the wrench. Then he turned back to her. I want you to stay, he said. All of you. She crossed the floor without hesitation and kissed him. Slow, certain, warm like sunrise. Hope woke with a soft cry moments later, and they moved as one to gather her. That night, under stars too bright to name, Jack stood on the back porch with Hope in his arms. Eva joined him, pressing close, Lily trailing behind with a blanket and 3 mugs of cocoa. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to, because somehow, from the broken pieces of a starving woman and a struggling single dad, a family had been forged, not by blood but by choice. Not in one grand moment, but over countless quiet ones. And every breath of laughter, every cry of joy, every whisper of hope was proof. Sometimes the miracle isn't in what you're given. It's in what you build together after everything falls apart.